we're back with another episode, and we're actually syncing this up with a new movie that's coming out. This episode's going to drop February 14th, and a movie's coming out. It's the new Captain America, where we get to see Anthony Mackie as the Falcon actually be Captain America. They did that in the series with, I believe it was the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where he was trying to take up the mantle. But this is the first one where he actually is Captain America fully. I'm personally really looking forward to that film. I don't know if any of you guys are or not.
It's supposed to be a Valentine's Day movie.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, Happy Valentine's Day,
right?
Love you, Marcy.
Yeah, it's like, you want to go see Anthony Mackie, right?
Sure.
See Captain America.
I still haven't seen Twisted Metal.
And
that's got Anthony Mackie in it.
I love that game as a kid.
I've heard it's actually good.
No, it's definitely good. It's not as crazy as you would think from playing the games, but it's still definitely.
Well, what character does he play? Axel
in
Twisted Metal?
I actually don't know. I think he might be his own
I watched it
character.
when it first came out, so I don't remember either.
I've never
Since
seen
that's
it.
not part of my prep for this podcast.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
so we're already off track
on a
here. So
tangent.
here we go.
That was a deep cut. I was
Yep.
like, wait a second.
Yep.
No,
He's definitely in there.
It was a Peacock series. It came out 2 years ago, something like that.
Twisted Metal?
Yeah,
That was like last year.
Was it 24?
No,
It
it
was
just-
23.
It just feels.
You have to remember, it's 2025 now.
That's true.
But it might have been 24. I don't know. Either way, regardless, with my excitement for that film coming, I'm actually going on the 15th. We're actually going to do an episode centered on Black superheroes. I'm going to go ahead and start, but I wanted to talk about Bishop. He's a character that many, like myself, probably know originally from X-Men the Animated Series in the 90s. His first actual appearance was in November of 91 in Uncanny X-Men number 282. And essentially, his character from the comics, he was born roughly 80 years in the future of the current, what the Marvel Cinematic Timeline was at that time. Or I should say the Marvel comic timeline, so it's not confused with the movies. And he was born into a dystopian future where essentially mutants are kind of being eradicated. And that M on his face is actually how they brand mutants, so people know that this person is a mutant. So I grew up only knowing him with that, but pretty much all mutants in the future that had been captured had that branded on their face.
Is that by the Sentinel kind of?
It's the Sentinels don't do the branding, I don't think, but the Sentinels are actually involved with hunting them down.
Okay.
Like the Sentinels are
Very much part of the eradication portion.
Yes, very
mutants.
much so. To the point that there's actually like some groups of humans and mutants that have kind of teamed up and are like trying to fight back a bit. But he actually grew up in a concentration camp with his little sister. And the outfit he's in, that blue, yellow, and red, is because when he grew up, he essentially became like an officer. Like he was part of the military that was essentially trying to, keep peace, obviously, and everything like that. But I do want to mention, there's a live action version of him as well, if you want to click on that other tab. In the X-Men Days of Future Past movie, he was played by Omar Sy. So they changed his powers up a little bit in this, and then they didn't really touch much on who he was. Like, I got super excited when I saw him in the trailer. And here, like, he could get blasted with energy, and he then, like, funnels it through his gun and shoots it back at them. Whereas in the comics, like, yeah, he has a gun because he's part of the military, but that has nothing to do with his powers. So when he would get blasted, yeah, he could, like, absorb all of that energy, and then he would just blast it back, essentially, from his hands at them. So there's been different iterations of him. The main one, though, I want to talk about is specifically from X-Men the Animated Series, because that's where I knew him from, and that's where I was first introduced to him. He's first brought in with the X-Men Days of Future Past storyline inside of the animated series, where he is essentially, I believe Forge helps him, sends him back in time to meet up with the X-Men and stop an assassination to try to stop his future time from happening in this whole dystopian era.
Oh,
which
in the movies they send
exactly. I was going to
Wolverine.
exactly get that. Which is
like,
funny because in the movies, Wolverine's an insanely popular character, and with Hugh Jackman playing him, that they actually send Wolverine's consciousness back in time to do it. So Bishop had nothing to do with it. So I was pretty upset when I saw the movie. It was still a good movie, don't get me wrong, but I was expecting Bishop. But funny enough is in that, people who are fans of the comics of Days of Future Past were probably also upset with the animated series, because in that live action movie, Kitty Pryde is sitting there like,
Right.
holding him still and like helping send him in the past to like live in his older body and try to help take care of this. In the comics, Kitty Pryde sends herself back in time into her younger body, and she's the one that actually is part of the whole thing. So it's like every time
So
they
many
do
people
it,
go back in time.
yeah, every time they do it, they change who's the one that goes in the past.
The one thing
It just
that's
goes like this, and it's like, I'm going back.
yeah.
the one thing
Takes
that's
care of itself.
consistent with anything comic related is inconsistency.
Yeah, exactly.
Even with
They
even with
changed it up.
comics, even among the same medium, it's like,
Right.
we just got different worlds. We'll just have them do this thing. or do that
Parallel
thing.
worlds.
Parallel, yeah.
But
or we just changed writers.
yeah, right. Well, I really like this character, so we're gonna revamp it how they work.
yeah.
But no, like I said, I know him from the animated series. He was the one that came back in time, and he actually, after he helped stop the assassination, he goes back in the future, and then he ends up coming back several different times to kind of help the X-Men do stuff.
Is that wait? Okay, so going back in time, is that one of his powers, or
It's
was
not
it
no,
someone
it's not a
else's?
power. They use like a time travel machine for him to do it.
He just has some sort of ability.
But-
like, is his powers like kinetic, like where he takes force against him and then transfers that force back through his
Essentially
gun?
energy absorption and stuff like that.
Okay,
But
okay,
depending
so-
on, there's been different iterations and people who have like added and changed powers. That energy absorption is always really a thing, but there's other things that have come up where like he somehow has the ability to always know what place and time he is in, what version of reality and everything like that. Like some people have done that with his character too. I don't know that from the animated series, but I have seen that referenced in some of his comic abilities and stuff. But that's why he's actually in the I don't know if you watched the X-Men 97 cartoon on Disney Plus when it came
already
out.
seen it.
It was amazing. I loved it.
Agreed.
But that's why he's in that show too, because technically in the comics, when he comes back in time, he eventually just stays in our time and becomes a member of the X-Men. So they actually kind of incorporated that bit in X-Men 97 and had him there. But what's really cool, I thought, is there's a comic series called Age of Apocalypse. And essentially what happens is Charles Xavier's, I believe it's his son, and his name is Legion, and he goes back in time essentially to kill Magneto to stop this whole war between Magneto and Xavier from ever happening. Xavier like essentially does the whole like, oh no, like jump in the way kind of stuff, and Legion killed his own dad. And so that royally messed up the timeline and started the Age of Apocalypse timeline where Magneto never, started the Brotherhood of Mutants or anything like that. He actually, to honor his fallen friend, starts the X-Men in his honor. And
Wait, Magneto?
yes, Magneto does.
Okay.
And Apocalypse becomes this big baddie that they're trying to stop. And people who have seen Deadpool and Wolverine, there's one of the versions of Wolverine when Deadpool's like jumping around trying to find a Wolverine to save his stuff in the movie, save his timeline. There's a Wolverine that has like a metal stump for a hand, and he has the really wild hair and everything like that. And he's sitting like a burning car and everything, and he just starts beating the shit out of Deadpool. That's the Wolverine from Age of Apocalypse. And the whole reason Age of Apocalypse, like the timeline gets saved, is because Bishop was there when Legion did this, and because of his like mental awareness, when the whole timeline shifted, he could still remember how time was supposed to be. And Magneto had somebody, I don't remember who, but essentially read his mind, see what the timeline was supposed to be, and that's how they knew to go and fix it and everything and reset it. But essentially, because of his time traveling, he's like pretty important when it comes to keeping the quote-unquote main timeline running because of how many times he's been sent back to fix things.
So he's like the plumber for
Yeah.
the mutants,
For the
basically.
X-Men timeline.
Well, this timeline's gone
let's
down
go
the
flush
shitter,
it.
so Yep, me and my handy plunger here.
Yeah, but this was like the first like African American like black superhero that I was exposed to as a really young kid, and I just fell in love with this character, and I've loved it ever since. Which is why when I saw it was gonna be in Days of Future Past, I was like, yes! And then I saw it, and I was like, fuck. Not that Omar Sy didn't do fine with the part, but they didn't give him much to do with it. So, but no, I think Bishop is very cool and very much deserves some love in the movies.
That's fair. So, is the coolest thing that he did was during Age of Apocalypse and fixed the timeline where Legion killed Xavier, or did he actually fix it?
Well, I mean,
I'm trying to figure out, since I don't have a lot of experience with the character. All I know is that people love Bishop.
Yeah.
I know almost nothing about him, so I'm trying to figure out, like, is he actually cool? Because nobody wants to seem to bring him back for anything, or much of anything.
I think it's maybe in the live action, maybe they don't know what to do with him. To really see the love for Bishop, you have to watch the animated series to see, him. Unless you're wanting to do the comics.
They also haven't
comics. I would definitely read Age of Apocalypse.
They also have him for the movies. They haven't really gotten to do much with X-Men for years either.
Yeah.
So there is that, and he probably would be next up on the list of like, hey, we can tap into that.
Yeah, I think they absolutely should, because I mean, just the whole idea of like growing up at a concentration camp, becoming essentially a cop, and then becoming this very important figure.
Did he have to break out of the concentration camp? Like, was that like
that part? I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just knew he grew up in one.
Okay.
But no, I think he's very cool. I mean, even just that image alone is badass.
It looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Makes him look cool. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, Bishop. That's my character. I think he's awesome.
All right. Well, I'll go next. So I want to bring up Cyborg from the Teen Titans, but I just want to give the caveat of the specific Cyborg I want to talk about is the one from the animated series.
Teen Titans Go?
No, not that one. Actually, to be honest, though, I still like Teen Titans Go too. They did seem to kind of get rid of the whole more adult themes in that one and the overarching story that they kind of had going on. But I think, the characters were still cool in that one. Anyway.
The chibi characters.
Yeah, the chibi characters. The design wasn't...
So is it wrong?
The
extent of my Cyborg knowledge comes from the show Smallville and the latest DC movies?
DC movies.
Hey, whatever works for you. I mean, he's generally the same in all of these, but I think just... he worked out so well for this show. I think it ran from like 2003 to 2006 or something. It actually wasn't all that long that it was on air. But for me, when I was, I guess, in middle school, high school during that time, high school during that time, it was really just it attracted me for sure. And the character of Cyborg was also just really interesting to me. I seem to prefer for superheroes, I seem to prefer like the more grounded and realistic, like, oh, this probably could happen maybe sometime in the future to somebody. So like
less superpowers,
random,
more like science.
Exactly. Like no random superpowers, more like science or just
man combined with machines.
Well,
sort of like
What is he still? So I also know him only through the movies.
Yeah. So
clearly, is he made from the mother box kind of thing, or is he made from a different thing in this?
So as far as the show goes, I don't know. To be honest, but I know
I don't believe his history really has anything to do with the mother box except for the movies. I could be wrong though.
How was Babby formed?
So he apparently there's a very tragic story to his origin, and I wouldn't be able to be an expert on like exactly what happened, but it involves him almost dying and his dad being the one to give him this half robot body to bring him back to life, but he did so without his consent. So he wakes up after becoming Cyborg, and he immediately is like, what the heck's going on? He hates his dad for it. He hates the world for it. And over time, he comes to like accept his new body and see how it can actually be a force of good.
The later movies actually cover all that.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I mean,
So I'm actually familiar with all
I
that.
actually
and
don't
I never
know
did
much
get to
about
see
it.
Teen Titans. I know of them, but so my knowledge is limited to those movies, and that's exactly the backstory that they have. I'm sure the particulars are different, but
Yeah, yeah.
Or-
Well, and like I said, I don't know if they ever cover any of that in the show. I don't think I've ever seen the animated series, from front to back. But I watched a lot of it, and it was always entertaining, especially Cyborg's character. I really connected with him, being a tech guy myself. And he in the show is like the person that they always go to when they need something hacked or they need something, technology focused or whatever. So that really resonated with me. But just a quick list of like his.
were you
quote-
also angry with your dad all the time?
Yes, I was angry with my dad all the time.
Perfect.
But did he save
Are we
your
gonna
life?
Are we gonna get into that? Probably should.
This episode took a big downturn.
Let's not.
No. Okay, so a quick list of his quote unquote superpowers, because they're not really superpowers, they're more like enhancements. He has superhuman strength, obviously. Come on, I mean, duh. He has integrated weaponry, like you could see in the picture up there. He has like an energy beam, but like I swear, I'm trying to reach back in my past, but I swear there was times when just like random stuff could come out of him. You're like, I didn't know he had rockets, or I didn't know he could do this. And it's just like for the episode,
Whip
they
out
decided
like a paint gun and paint a house
yeah,
or something like that, or
like Inspector Gadget
or like
kind of stuff.
Green Lantern, except
Yeah.
for it's like nano machines,
Yeah,
son.
exactly. He also, like I was talking
I
about,
just suddenly thought, go gadget waffle maker for some stupid reason. Go.
I don't know
Dude,
if you ever
that would
got
be
out
the
waffle
best.
makers.
I don't know, but I was just like waffles.
Yeah. Technological interface, obviously, like I was saying, he could basically talk to computers. Flight and mobility, basically he could have rocket boosters and whatnot and kind of fly/get around due to that, as well as, data analysis and just general tech stuff, super, more like computer-like calculation abilities and stuff like that. So
Essentially, anything our technology can do, he can do.
yeah,
Well, I mean, he's
Yeah.
half a
Drive.
computer.
Right.
but you don't have to carry a phone with you to do it. It's just, part of him. Maybe that one's not so cool, but come on. He's got all that.
Like he can drive, he can like a car, he can fly like a plane, he can like shoot missiles like a missile.
He's a Swiss Army knife of a person. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that really I really enjoyed about his character is he was a big part of the humor of the show. And so a lot of like the hijinks that would go on would involve him. And he was just like almost like this in-between character between someone like Raven, who was always serious all the time, and Starfire, who was just aloof and like completely innocent. He was like the middle ground between them, which I thought was kind of cool. But also he was like, for some reason, he was always hungry. So anytime food came up, he like devoured it and stuff like that. And that was always some physical
all that
comedy.
computing power needs energy.
That was
Yeah.
that was his anime trait.
Yeah, that was his anime trait. Yeah, yeah. So his humor in the show was really what made me keep watching episode after episode after episode. But then also, like, there's this whole element to him about like, am I robot? Am I human? What am I? And like you see the development throughout the show where you see how human he is and how beneficial he is to the team and to the world. And I really, respect him for that character growth that he goes through.
I'm now curious, who was created first, Cyborg or RoboCop?
I don't know.
The themes are very similar for that.
I will say I did a little research for this episode, and there was a specific character that he was based off, at least as far as the design goes, and it was actually some villain. I can't remember what his name was, but I don't remember RoboCop ever coming up during.
Wait,
that.
villain in what? Like in a movie?
No, I meant like the theme of like, am I man, am I machine, and the struggle
Oh,
there.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
talking about. Like not nothing about the design or his look or anything how he acts, but just that central theme.
So I mean, I will also say like he's a really big character in DC comics in general. I don't know how far back he goes, but I think he goes pretty far back. So I would think probably before RoboCop, but someone out there check me on that.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't really matter because that's like that's a pretty
RoboCop-
I don't know.
common.
RoboCop
That's a
is like
pretty
what,
common.
87 or
87,
something?
87 is when it came
Yeah.
out, so
Yeah.
it's been a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, nothing much else to say about that. But what do y'all think?
He looks kind of a little old. His
Should we save our thoughts?
Well, he's
until
a
we're actually voting on
teenager.
things?
He's
Probably.
part of the Teen Titans.
he looks
We-
like
we-
the oldest of all the
Yes,
teens.
he does. He does look
Yeah.
like. I
We
don't
should
know if he
probably
actually
save our
is.
thoughts though until we're voting.
Well, no, I'm not
No,
telling
this
you to
is just
judge him.
normal-
Just
normal
comment on
questions
him.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I'm saying, my knowledge of him is very limited. Just because, like I said, I know of him on Smallville. I read a bit about his background, like when he was on Smallville, and I've seen him in the latest movies. I did not watch Teen Titans or Teen Titans Go or any other Titans anythings. Well, I can't say nothing. I watched like the first 2 seasons of Titans, which was that live action show.
Oh, I heard that was actually decent.
Was
it?
It wasn't bad. It
I've
wasn't
not
Okay.
heard of that
It
before.
was. I wouldn't call it great because I had to
Okay.
go back and watch the last.
Well, I remember
season,
watching
but it
the
wasn't
trailer
bad.
thinking that was gonna be horrible, but then like I read like, oh, like it's actually pretty decent, and I was
Yeah.
like, all right, maybe
Yeah,
I'll watch
it-
that
it
at
wasn't-
some
it
point.
wasn't
but
bad.
Never did.
I didn't love who was playing Robin, Nightwing, whatever, but that was just I didn't like the.
It looked a
portrayal
little
of the character.
edgy, a little edgelord.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it,
For
it
me,
was
it's
too dark and brooding. But
Yeah, for me, I remember bits and pieces of this, and then it was Cyborg in the latest movies that were, and then there was the director's cut that came out where he had even more of a role and a proper, like he's a football kid, and then his dad remakes him. It's a Pinocchio story, or what is it? Kind of, and he's like, am I a real boy or not?
Yeah.
The tragedy versus what it is. And he's kind of like the brooding guy who's watching everyone talk and he knows everything. It's like Batman and Wonder Woman, I think, are talking. And then there's just suddenly a shot of just like Cyborg's listening the whole time.
And
then
you
goes away. Yeah.
in this show there wasn't much brooding.
Yeah. I mean,
It
it's
was-
Teen Titans, so
Yeah.
they put a very...
it was
it's
very
also
much
a kids show, so
Yeah.
they probably don't go too dark.
it
and
was very
stuff, but,
much
yeah.
leaning heavily on the comedy as far as the show goes. But one thing I want to say also about him is he's just a very well-rounded character, right? He's got realistic superpowers. He has a wide...
I know. I pull a gun out of my fist all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I'd love to be
I know what you mean by science based instead of powers.
I would love to be Mega Man.
This guy, man.
Yeah.
Every episode, yes. No, very well-rounded character, and I really enjoyed what he did in that show, and I just like him.
How high did the stakes get in the show?
Oh, they get really high,
They
especially
get
in
high,
this
okay.
one. There is a real story arc to it that involves very serious tones, and back then in the 90s/2000s, that's what cartoons were. They were for kids, but they also had this
Oh, the Batman influence. I
Yeah,
think,
like
the
the
real
influ-
dark Batman.
Oh,
Exactly.
Batman the animated series.
Yeah.
Love that show.
yeah.
All right, Andy, you want to go talk about yours?
All right.
you
Pull
got
up
there?
that beautiful face. Come on.
Pull up
Bring
that
it. Look at that.
Miss-
Let's look at him.
Mr. Wesley Snipes.
Look at those glasses, man.
Just look at him. He was made for this role. I think this picture, just us finding this, captures both what's great about that movie and what's goofy as hell about it. Like, why is he's like brooding and like really like, and then suddenly he shoots a guy and nails him to the wall, and he just goes like, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And then he's like stands up and everyone circles around him, and then he goes like, hey, hey. And you're like, why is he doing that? Smile.
He's really enjoying his work, and he doesn't have anybody else to relate to. So he's just like, all right, I'm just gonna smile when I'm doing my job.
Yeah.
So this came out 98. So around this time,
Was it really about that? I thought it
Yeah.
was earlier '90s than that.
around
Okay.
this time, Marvel's in dumps. Like superhero movies
Yeah.
are like working, not working. Batman's been the only one that's like really successfully been made, and like what?
Superman, hello.
Yeah, no, I said DC. Well, there was no Superman in that period. It was Batman for a while. We didn't
Yeah.
get Superman. I mean,
Well, Superman ruled
Tim
the
Burton
70s
after
and the
Batman
80s
was trying to
fine.
make a Nicolas Cage Superman, which like horrible idea, got shelved, but you can still find footage of it.
They put him in the latest. It was like the Flash movie. Too.
Yeah, to show like there was that version of him. So he gets sold for the rights for Blade for like $75,000. That's it. That was it to like buy the movie rights.
Nobody knew who Blade was back then.
Yeah, no one knew it.
Even a lot of comic book collectors and stuff like that. It wasn't like the
He was in
Biggest
Spider-Man the
kid.
animated series.
And they bring in David S. Goyer, if you remember him, the author, like the guy who wrote Dark Knight, who made the Superman of Steel, and like so that dark
Oh, okay.
DC version
Yep.
sets later on. He's the one who wrote those things. So this is like his first entry into like superhero movies. At one point, David Fincher also was working on the script, helping with it. And then finally, they find Wesley Snipes. They're gonna make this movie. Think with the budget of like 40 million something. They make 170 something million. So they make a buttload of money. It's a big success. This movie back in its time. So
yeah. I can't imagine the budget was
Quick.
huge.
yeah, quick run through on what's the story. There vampires exist who are just nighttime.
And not the
Walkers.
stupid sparkly kind.
No. Though there's a sparkly scene, and I'll talk about it. So Blade's mom gets bitten as she's pregnant, and so Blade is born with vampire powers, but he can go out in sunlight.
Daywalker.
What are they called?
Daywalker.
Oh, yeah,
The
daywalkers.
Daywalkers here. So it's just a very cool name for him.
I call my
Daywalker
cats
is-
that never sleep daywalkers.
Yeah.
And the reason was because he wasn't actually the one bitten.
Bitten. His mom transferred,
Right.
and so
And he's the only one in the world that like went through that.
yeah, it's like the
just
Harry
not-
Potter Avada Kedavra. This
Yeah.
is where she got it from.
Okay.
The mom protects it, and so the mom's spell got added in. So there was a mix of genes, and he survives. The mother's a whole another character later on. So the mom dies. That's what he thinks. More on that later. And he's just like, now I'm just going to kill the vampires now because they did this to me. So he just ages slowly. Vampires don't really age at all, or much slower than him. He still has the superpowers of them. So the movie just starts with like this night rave where this homeless guy's or just this guy was brought in by a female, attractive female. So he's like, hey, this is great. And then blood starts raining. And then he
Oh, the
realizes
club scene?
the club scene, and everyone's got like, it's literally starts with like Darude Sandstorm kind of, and he's like running and crawling out, and then he comes to the legs of Blade, who comes in, and it's like it's open season on Suckheads. It's like they're bam, bam, bam.
Suckheads.
Yeah.
He just kills.
There's a lot of one-liners in that movie.
He just kills everyone. It's an amazing introduction. He's got this Matrix suit before Matrix, like this long trench coat, black leathery thing.
This must have influenced Matrix in some way with how close the
I
movies
think they were kind of already
They
written.
came
most
out
of it.
very close to the same
Yeah,
time.
99, 98. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it was very close to it. So all that happens is there's this one guy, I'll say Deacon Frost, the villain's name, amazing name. So his backstory is actually really good. He's not a pureblood. He was a converted vampire. He wasn't born a vampire. So the high power of the vampires hate him. And he's kind of like, we should be ruling this world and turning everyone into vampires. So his backstory is actually really good. The lore is really good. That there's this ancient vampire council and all this is going on. So it's basically the Deacon Frost guy trying to invoke some ancient ritual, and they need Blade's blood for him. So that's why he's always hunting him, saying, "I need him alive." Uh, and he wants to use that to bring out something that's going to convert everyone into vampires, which is like, so then who are you going to eat if everyone's a vampire? Maybe just
Wait.
animals.
Wait. So vampires can't subsist off of vampire blood?
That's a good question. I don't know. Probably not.
Never that I've seen in any
No.
of the iterations of vampires. Now, some of them can survive off of not human blood.
Like animals, yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty common. So,
They'll have animals. There you go.
Yeah. There's like he wants to convert, or there's a point where it's like just maybe he just gets more power so he can rule the world, and humans are just cattle, and vampires are the real rulers, but like they're night people anyway. So what happens is Blade does some cool killing where he tries to kill one of these vampires, but he doesn't because he's like, I'm bored of shooting you. And then he uses incendiary rounds on him and burns that vampire up. So the vampire doesn't die. He goes to the mortuary, and then the lady who's a doctor specializing in genome or something, she shows up because they're like, hey, this DNA is weird. Vampire wakes up, bites the guy in the room, bites her, and Blade kind of takes her in, and basically he takes her back to his lair with this guy called Whistler, who's the weapons manufacturer and support for him. They try to cure her with fucking garlic injection, basically.
I always thought, I was like, going, is that just some
Gave
magical
her some
bullshit
Parmesan
juice?
cheese bread, a little garlic on it.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say,
the-
they trying to heal her or are they trying to cook her?
Whatever. They're like,
Well,
if you don't heal, at least you'll taste great.
Yeah. Well, essentially, like you have like so long to like counteract like the poison that's put in the blood when they're bit or something. So
That's a plot, and it's like you can know that the plot is that she was brought in because she's a medical scientist and can do some weird things and maybe move the plot forward. You can figure out like, oh, they got a doctor amongst them now, and she's working to figure out the cure for Blade also later on. And in the end, the plot ends with, Blade's caught. They use his blood. He gets the powers. Terrible CGI ensues, like horrendously bad CGI. And his mom's not dead, alive. She's been shacking up with the vampire who bit her. Like total. There's like this very uncomfortable sexual scene where the mom is like close up with him. It's like, Blade, you need to be this and that, son. And it's all sexual, and it's just like the weirdest thing ever.
because you're still human. Once they're vampires, they don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
You get bored after a few hundred years.
You're
right?
like, why even is this mom plot in this movie? You just don't know. She could have not been there totally. She could have just died in the beginning.
I
Maybe it's
honestly don't
faithful
even
to the
remember.
comics.
I don't even remember that, like that like plot thread or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I've seen this movie a lot. Like
Yeah,
it's been a
no,
while,
I
but I don't
remember.
even remember that.
See, you probably deleted it. In your head.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting
Just
at. They're
blocked.
probably just
No.
gone.
So, in the end, the Black Doctor gives him some blue serum, which doesn't fix, but makes them bloat up and explode with vampires. So he shoots the bad guy with a bunch of those, and he just bloats up into this big fat thing and explodes. And the movie ends. I think they say there's a cameo of Morbius or something.
I cannot believe I've never seen this movie because this
Really?
sounds amazing.
Oh, it's
Dude,
awesome.
amazing.
Oh,
dude.
Okay,
Dude,
we're gonna
yeah,
set up a
we
session.
should-
The four of us are gonna watch.
I was
Blade.
gonna say is like we should just freaking watch it. Yeah,
Dude, I
Now,
enjoyed that
some
more
people
than
hate
Temple
it,
Doom
but I actually like
watching
Blade
this.
Trinity as well.
I like Blade Trinity. Dude,
Oh,
that
yeah,
has
no, it's good.
that has some of the best. Like Ryan Reynolds in that movie is the man. Like when he goes off and says like there's like you cock sucking thunder cunt or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
yeah.
wow, really?
Ryan Reynolds, Jessica Biel is in there.
Jessica
Well,
Biel's
I was gonna
bad.
say, I was gonna go like, I'm very sorry, honey, but Jessica
Jessica
Biel in that
Jessica
movie.
Biel. No, my wife would be absolutely on board. Yeah.
And the second Blade movie is actually made by Guillermo del Toro. So like a high caliber director.
So it actually got even better for
even
the second
better.
one?
Second
Okay.
movie is considered the best.
Blade
Yeah,
2's good.
Blade 2 is good.
You know what?
I don't love it as much as
You know what?
3 and 1 though.
So I want to quickly.
Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
We should do an episode on sequels.
Oh,
Oh,
we
jeez.
should.
You know
That
what?
sounds like
We
some.
should.
That
Why don't-
sounds like some foresight.
You know what? Why don't we do it next episode?
Let's do it.
That sounds like a good idea.
Y'all will get that in 2 weeks.
All right.
But
Here's I'll
Go
fire
ahead, go
through
ahead,
so
go ahead.
that I don't
Yeah.
take up too much of the time
Yeah,
here.
You got 3 minutes.
Wesley Snipes did his own stunts, and they were good.
Well, because he's
They
actually
were
a
pretty
martial
good.
artist.
Yeah, because he could do them.
he's athletic as hell.
It's one of the first R-rated comic movies to be commercially successful. It is R-rated. They don't hold back anything.
Well, they
I
did draw the line of letting the mom and son actually.
Seal the deal.
So they held back something.
You really wanted that, didn't
No,
you?
I did not. I'm
You're-
glad they
you're
didn't
I was
step
trying
over
to
that
think
line.
what aged well,
I can
what
hear
did
the
not age well.
disappointment.
Okay, so
That didn't age well.
what did age well? What aged well is fight choreography, amazing. So there's like a weird part where he and another guy are just air kicking, not doing anything between each other, where it looks like a competition of who's kicking the highest or something.
they're
Like
like
that
doing-
was a roundhouse.
Yeah, just a
It's
roundhouse,
like- yeah, yeah, yeah.
roundhouse. And
It's
I'm
like-
like,
it's
what
like-
are you guys doing?
It's like capoeira.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't need a backstory. They don't try to deep kind of. It's very well fit. His origins, like short, sweet. The structure of the movie is really good. This is both aged well and did not age well. There's a scene in which vampires just put on a whole buttload of sunscreen and show
It's
up.
like
in daytime.
SPF 6000.
Oh, dude, it's
6
like
million, something
I
like
don't know if you guys
Sparkly.
remember. There's a commercial in one of the RoboCop movies where it's like she puts on like this.
Oh, yeah.
blue,
Yeah,
she's like
vest
blue,
for
yeah,
like 5
yeah.
million. Yeah, and then it has a warning that says may cause skin cancer.
And just vampires just put it on, and you're like, that's both stupid and genius at the same
Yeah,
time.
and they get like
You
what,
just,
like 15 minutes or something out there before they run out of suntan lotion.
there is some inconsistency of like one shot is like cinematic and amazing, and another is just like goofy, and you're just like, this is a little, the disconnect is there, but some parts are really well made. The exploding vampire serum is the practical effects are hilarious.
Yeah,
It's
it's
amazing.
not great when he gets puffy and moves. I remember that.
The string wire kill is one of the best things, where he has this like anti-vampire string, and this guy
It's
is like,
essentially silver.
yeah, he just runs at him, and he just does like this whip around and stuff.
You're gonna watch this
You're
movie
gonna-
with us.
you're
We're
gonna
going to sit down and watch
Cannot
it.
wait.
You're honestly gonna like all three movies.
Last amazing aged well is he rips the throat off one guy and throws it at the next guy and then go punches it. CGI just does not carry at all. It's just hilarious.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
it's-
blood
it's
animation
late
that you
90s,
cannot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was-
Which is
it wasn't-
crazy when you think about it. Like
Yeah.
with Matrix, you said like coming out the very next year, and how well they did the CGI in that film.
There's not a lot of CGI in that movie.
Well, okay, true.
Obviously, if it came out now, they'd have better CGI.
Mhm.
But overall, it is maybe snipping one plot, especially the mother thing. It's just like weird. I don't know why.
Yeah, that was strange.
David is Goyer. I don't know, man, what's wrong with you and your mom, but that's weird shit. But I still think it's cool. I still think it's a well-made movie, very well paced. You're not bored at all, and it all fits together. So I think it's cool.
All right.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't mention this, so I'm going to mention it before I forget.
Go on.
You even mentioned the scene this happens in. When people think bullet time, they always think the Matrix.
Oh yeah.
But in Blade, which came out before the Matrix, when he's outside with the suntan lotion on talking to Blade, there is a scene. Blade like pulls out a gun and shoots, and it slows way down, and he just kind of goes,
Deacon
and you
Frost.
see the bullet just kind of go like this right past him.
Your mother's woman.
They slowed it down to bullet time. But in the Matrix movies, it wasn't CGI. They had a whole bunch of cameras just went all through the different cameras.
Well, they all copied it from Max Payne anyway. So
Yeah.
But they were firing real bullets in the Matrix. That's what you're saying. The
No,
bullets weren't
no,
CGI. You said it wasn't CGI, man.
They might have been firing real bullets. I don't know. I was thinking like you were thinking like when they did all the slow down stuff. Like no, that was like a bunch of cameras they had. But
So anyway, this character that I'm going to bring up today is Al Simmons, also known as Spawn. And I have a pretty decent connection with him because my grandparents actually owned a chain of comic book stores in the mid 90s and like mid late 90s.
Damn.
During the whole bubble era of like everybody buying comics, and some people were into them, some people just wanted to make money. So anyway, I was exposed to a decent amount of comics, despite the fact that I didn't really grow up with comics. I grew up in a small farm town. I didn't even have access to comics, but they were like 30 minutes away in the big town of Topeka, Kansas, and every once in a while they give me some comics. And Spawn came out around that time, and so I ended up absolutely loving him, like almost everybody else, because it was made. The character was made by Todd McFarlane. Absolutely brilliant artist. He worked on Spider-Man. Not so great at writing, but really good at character drawing and design. And him and another group of artists broke away from like Marvel, might have been some from DC too, and formed a company called Image Comics. And Image Comics, like they were, if you lived during that era, you knew anything about comic books, you knew Image was like they did everything for at least a short period of time. They were them. And Todd McFarlane was essentially the king of them. And the main book and the most successful book was Spawn. And I really enjoyed that because that was also during the era where like, you're getting a little older and like there's comic books, there's video games, and you don't want cartoons anymore. And you're trying to like prove to your like peers or your parents or older people that my stuff, like this is violent, this is edgy. It was during that whole edgelord period of like the late 90s, early 2000s for video games and comics. And he's kind of your perfect edgelord.
You're so right.
Yeah, right, isn't it?
So
Like,
right.
yeah, it's like everybody just wanted like, Mom, Dad, take what I love seriously, like stuff like that, or like your grandparents didn't understand, but in this case, my grandparents did because they had a comic book store. But anyway, Al Simmons is a pretty cool character. The backstory is that he is like he worked for the CIA. Kind of like Black Ops, Merc, something like that. And by the way, I'm sticking with Spawn, the original Spawn. There's actually another guy that takes over at some point, but I'm sticking with Al Simmons here. But he's just some guy. And one of his big claims to fame is that he saved the president, and he did a lot of like some undercover stuff, mostly worked with the CIA. But he started questioning stuff, and when he started questioning stuff, he pretty much came under fire of some people that just were like, no, we don't need you around anymore. And what happened? Like I was trying to figure out the name. Oh yeah, his friend, I think his friend's name was Terry. Like one of his best friends' name was Terry. And the CIA hires Terry, who's also known as Chapel, to go and kill Al Simmons, and he kills him.
Wait, what? His best friend kills him?
Okay, no, it gets better. It gets better. His best friend Chapel kills Al Simmons, and so they think everything's done right there. Well, Al Simmons has a little in common with the Crow here, I guess, but he ends up essentially going down to hell because the dude's an assassin. Like he's not. He's like, and the concept of heaven and hell exists in this universe. And he goes down, and he ends up kind of running into a guy that's kind of like the devil, but his name's Malbolgia. I think that's how you pronounce his name. At least that's how I always pronounce it, Malbolgia. And essentially makes a deal with the devil, saying like, hey, if you come back as one of my hell spawn, you can basically do what you want. You have to be my champion for my causes, but you will be pretty much all powerful. And he's like, yes, please, I want revenge. I was wronged. And so he comes back. However, he doesn't come back right away. He comes back 5 years later. And he comes back all messed up, like he's burnt up, doesn't look real good. And he ends up going and finding out, and I think at some point he actually can end up controlling like what he looks like. And I'll get into his powers here in a little bit, but here's the messed up thing. 5 years later, he finds out that his friend Terry, aka Chapel, married his wife
Yup.
Wanda, and had a baby with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Screw you, Wanda.
So she didn't know. She thought he was
that's
dead.
what Chapel did.
And she didn't know anything. Yeah, she didn't know about like, Chapel doing all that either. So naturally, he's not super happy about all of this. And so he's very dark, very brooding. And his actual job for Malbolgia is that he's going around and he will like essentially be a hitman or assassin for the devil. And he'll go around, he'll kill like evil guys. Like there's this guy named like Overkill or Overkill. I think there's actually some spelling thing that goes on there. But anyway, he's like this big cyborg thing, kills him. There's this guy, I think his name's Kincaid, and kills him. And he's killing these guys.
Why does the
to
devil
be-
want?
That's
want
what I was
to
gonna
kill
ask.
bad
That's
guys?
where I was literally about to say that.
Hey, okay, go.
He's like, no, just
Go.
calm down for a second, guys.
Yeah, yeah.
I know it's very exciting.
I'm enthused.
Yeah. So the reason why the devil wants him to kill these guys, because it doesn't make sense. It's like, well, what are you doing for the devil? And it turns out he's recruiting for the devil. He's killing bad people to have an army of hell spawns that the devil then use and manipulate, because these people are very easy to manipulate and use for his own efforts for the end game of basically defeating the forces of heaven, essentially. So that's kind of what he does. So
The
a lot
Spawn
of
find out.
he does.
Okay.
Because it actually is it's good foreshadowing for how he got killed, because he started questioning his masters in the CIA and they killed him. Well, because he's not he's a bad man, but he's not a terrible person. Like in regards to I at least have some morals or some ethics. So he's questioning why am I doing this? What am I doing it for? Because that wasn't all divulged to him. And so now we pretty much get him into modern day, and he decides he just wants to hang out with hobos. And he makes friend with hobos, and he is kind of the champion for all of the people that are of the streets, pretty much homeless and stuff like that. And so anybody, he's kind of like edgelord Batman, sort of, and hangs up. But instead of going back to a mansion, he goes back to his little alleyway, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a best friend that knows way too much about what he is and what he can do.
But wait, okay, so hold on. Does he stop doing things for the devil?
Eventually, there's kind of no. I'm trying not to get too far into that because his lore goes real hard. And there's the forces
what
of
I'm
heaven
trying
and
to
hell.
ask, does he make an actual good guy turn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, he tries to fight against what he can or how he can.
He's essentially like an anti-hero, right?
He's an anti-hero. He is an anti-hero. And also, I just wanted to talk real quickly about his suit, because that's one of the most iconic things of all
I
time.
love his cape every time you
suit
see
and
it.
his cape specifically is absolutely amazing. He's got this, I think it's called necroplasm is what fuels him. And in the comics, you can see these numbers. And it looks like a clock, but it's actually anytime he uses his power, that necroplasm goes down. And so he's very much like Green Lantern, where it's just whatever you think about, you can kind of do. And he kind of goes towards guns and stuff a lot. In fact, he uses guns a lot, so he doesn't have to use his necroplasm. But when he can, and he can hit hard. But it's closer and closer to him basically dying and officially becoming he's full-time then servant of Malbolgia. He's not he has to go fight for him or be a general in his armies or something like that. So it's always a constant battle of do I use powers? Do I not? How much do I use? Things like that. And the cape is one of those things that thing can turn into all kinds of stuff. In the game Soul Calibur 2, is definitely a technological issue why they didn't have the cape, but they said the cape turned into his axe. He's got this double-sided axe.
Right.
And but he's also been, I was going to talk about this. He's had a movie, which I did not like at the time. I did not like it. So somebody come at me with that. I'm sure somebody
I
out
was
there
like,
loves
I
that.
did like it. But
I did too.
That was my
It had-
first exposure to
It
it.
had
I liked it too.
What's his name? Michael Jai White, or I think his name is. I like that actor too.
Yeah, and he's a cool dude, but I just didn't like that movie. It was too ambitious for what at the time the CGI just couldn't hold up. They changed a lot of key elements of the story. They made it a little too goofy.
Violator!
Yeah. What's his face who played Violator? He was actually
John
pretty.
Leguizamo?
John Leguizamo. He was
Yeah.
actually pretty good in it. But yeah, that movie kind of like bounced around. Didn't look like it wasn't as cool as what I had read in the comics. And I was
Yeah.
particularly, I mean, look at that image.
I
That's
think
freaking
if you
cool.
forgive some of the cape CGI and keep in mind when it was, I think the movie's still pretty
Yeah.
good. But that's not what we're talking about. Go ahead.
As a kid, when I saw it, the cape to me then seemed very real. I wasn't thinking this is
Yeah,
shitty.
we're spoiled.
I wasn't thinking
now,
this is shitty CGI. I was just like when his cape in the middle forms like a tank thing around
Oh
him.
man, me at the
Right?
time, I
Yeah.
did. I thought it looked
Yeah.
terrible, and it just took me out of the movie. I just couldn't. I just couldn't get over that. But anyway, yeah, his cape's super cool. Mortal Kombat 11 actually had him as a DLC character, and they had the cape in there, and it was glorious, and I love that.
Finish him. Fatality. Spawn wins.
But yeah, pretty much as a character, he's definitely an anti-hero. He's very much an edgelord. I always thought of him as edgelord Batman. He's also a little bit Venom because his suit is even, I believe, even referred to as kind of a symbiote, and it can change into all kinds of different stuff. So, and also Todd McFarlane, if I remember correctly, created Venom. So I'm pretty sure he did.
I think you might be right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
So I think there's a few connections there, and that's also super cool because Venom's awesome, and he's yeah. So I think he's pretty cool. I think he's very edgy. I would hope now that CGI, even our bad CGI, could do a much better job.
Yeah, I think
and
we need
have a
another
good
Spawn
movie version of
Yeah.
this, or even bring him back in like a lot of animated shows, adult animated shows, or like, oh, that's the other thing. This is one of the first adult animated shows I ever saw. It was on HBO. It won 2 Emmys.
Yeah, I saw like 2
It
or
was-
3 episodes of it.
Yeah, it ran
know,
for
like,
2 seasons, and it won a couple of Emmys and a couple of Annies, and it was really good. And yeah, so anyway, love the character. I think he's great.
So do you want to go in reverse, or we just finished talking about Spawn? We can all vote on Spawn. Let's go back to the start.
I think we should just go in reverse.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll jump all over this. I mean, this image alone is amazing. I don't go near as deep on Spawn as you clearly do. I've never read any of the comics. I've seen comic covers and stuff like with pictures, stuff like this, and it looks amazing. My main reference for Spawn is the movie that came out, and then, of course, like I said, I saw an episode or 2 of the HBO series, and even just the movie that you didn't care for. I actually did like it. And I was like, this character's really freaking cool and stuff that it does.
I need to watch
So-
it again because I can forgive a lot of the bad stuff a little easier these
Yeah,
days than
yeah.
back then. I was like, this isn't my comic, you know, like if
But I
I
mean,
can
that's
remove
the thing,
that.
though. Like, if I can look at that movie and be like, wow, this is really good. And you, someone who loved the comics, is like, God, this does not do the comics justice. Tells me, like, I should read the fucking comics. Because, I mean, just like I said, the images are amazing alone. So, I mean, like, I think it's easy to say. I think it's very cool. Like, I totally agree with you on that.
For me, the movie, the backstory you told me matched 100%. I think with the movie, they might have
I think
fudged
that was pretty
they're
close.
pretty
Yeah,
much
it was
close.
close,
His
yeah.
comebacks is like, you know, the guy who came back and looking at his wife and like, that's not good, you know. And the villains were cartoony. I think they were a little too campy. I think that's what was.
I love Jeff Leguizamo on the fat suit
Yeah,
being the clown,
it's like
though.
you have to like
I
accept
did like
it.
that,
I think.
yeah.
His cape was, I think, the most amazing thing because he had like a cape that would just go forever. Like
In the
this
movie, they
huge
cheaped
cape.
out and only had the cape in like a few scenes.
Yeah, when he's on
And-
top of the building
And
on
he
a guard
there's
dial
this
and
one scene
yeah.
where he falls down and it's all the CGI cape, and I wish somebody would just go and redo that. Like there's tons of people on YouTube who do that kind of stuff these days. Please, somebody go do that because that scene is awesome, but the cape looks terrible. To me, it looks terrible. As a kid, I think I was a little older. I was in my teens when I saw this.
Yeah.
So
I still liked it. I still liked the deal with the devil, and then come back just fueled by vengeance, kind of thing, and obviously the comic book parts, which I was exposed a little bit more later on after I saw the movie when I was like, oh, so Spawn's I saw first and I was like, whatever, like Spawn. What am I gonna like? Why did they name it Spawn? Kind of thing. Is it supposed to be like Devil's Spawn or something?
Hellspawn.
Hellspawn, right?
Yep.
So I didn't think much, and then I saw the movie and I was like, oh, so the next time I came across, I read some comics, and I thought, okay, this is a very cool, dark character.
So your judgment
Anyway,
is?
I think this is cool.
All right. I'm last, and my vote doesn't count, but I will say I haven't seen the movie. I've never read the comics, although the art has always gotten to me. I think it's just so amazingly detailed and so different from anything else that was out there at the time. And hearing how you describe this story, I'm always up for a good divine confrontation. I'm always up for a good anti-hero. You brought up like he's edgelord Batman, and I do want to say Batman has to come up every single episode of this podcast, except last episode we forgot, and I'm really sad about that. And so there's no way I can't vote cool for this. I think he's just an awesome character.
Cool. I'll take that. Unanimous. He's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, he's cool. Official. Stamped. All right. So before that, we were talking about Blade.
Blade.
So I have to ask.
Give it.
This probably won't change my vote. Don't know if it would change any of your votes. But since you talk so much about the Blade movie with Wesley Snipes, are we specifically voting for
The movie.
Blade the character, or specifically Blade the movie?
I want to put it to Blade the movie because it's the character's still around,
Yeah.
right? Like it's
I have no experience with him from the comics.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for me-
this is Blade for me.
How about
It's the
Blade,
Blade.
the character that exists in the movie? How
it's
about
the
that?
movie.
Well, no,
the
if we're doing Blade the movie,
Let's
that's
just go
fine. I
with
just
that.
wanted to make sure I understood.
Let's
what he was
just go
looking
with movie Blade, the first Blade movie.
Yeah.
That's the one.
for. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Because I want to bring it down to if its character becomes too big to talk about in a timeline.
to me, it's
right?
not going to change my vote, regardless. I
This
didn't
is
know
a
if it would do
piece
that,
of
so I was asking.
history, so we're voting on this
I
piece. Of, look at that guy.
absolutely love Blade.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I mean, when they
then
brought him back
you
from
take us off from here. Talk about how you love him.
yeah, I was like when he was brought back for Deadpool and Wolverine, and we walked in, I was like, yes,
Yeah.
because I mean, like, I loved Blade. Blade 2, I wasn't as much in love with as the first movie, but it was still good. And then I really enjoyed Blade Trinity, even though most people say it's the worst one. I still really enjoyed Blade Trinity. And when I heard they were supposed to be doing Blade again with the MCU, spacing on the actor's name, I was super excited for that too, because it's like, oh, we get to see Marvel do it.
Mahershala
And
Ali.
now they're Mahershala Ali, yeah, Mahershala Ali. But now I hear that that's like not even on their slate anymore. It's probably not happening. I'm just like, man, cry. But no, I love Blade, and I'm knowing that you haven't seen it, Deuce. We're gonna watch the freaking movie together.
I can't wait.
Yes, absolutely cool. Absolutely cool.
All right, I'll go next, and this is going to be hard for me because once again I haven't seen it.
Have you seen anything? What are you doing here?
I am a fan of movies. I will say my wife is not, and that kind of creates problems sometimes. But yeah, just want to say this guy also seems to me like he relates a bit to Batman. He's kind of like Batman, but cooler. in my
Batman,
mind.
but he kills absolutely everybody.
Vampire Batman,
Or-
but
Yeah, he
cooler.
doesn't have a rule.
Yeah.
He is. Here's the weird part. He can survive in sunlight, but all his enemies live at night. So he's also still pretty much the night Batman.
Yeah.
he has to go out at night.
Exactly. Okay. But yeah, I mean, everything that y'all are talking about from the movie, from the character, it's just I'm always a big fan of just enough cheese to be funny / also awesome at the same time. And it feels like his character really balances that, kind of toes that line. So yeah, cool for me.
All right. Yeah, I don't matter, but I'm also going to vote. He
You
is
matter.
absolutely- I, no,
You
no,
matter.
no.
Your vote doesn't, but
All
you
right.
do.
All right, I'll take that. I'll take
Speak
that.
for yourself.
But Wesley Snipes, man, he was born to play this role. He
Yes.
absolutely killed it. It was very, very well done in everything that I can think of. Everything from the quips, the one-liners, the badassness, like the attitude. He's just one of the most athletic actors that ever lived. You know, also crazy martial artist, and just born for this role. And just nailed it. Loved one, loved two. Three had the highest of highs and had some of the lowest of lows.
Yeah.
Is like kind of like that was
It has
exactly
its
what it
moments.
was. It has its
great
moments that I
moments, yeah.
loved. It was, I guess he pretty much played what is it when you're an actor and you're just very much into your character and you don't come out of character.
Method.
Yeah,
Method
Fully
actor.
method.
He kind of went a little method with the Blade movies. In fact, that's actually the source of the reason why Ryan Reynolds and him did not get along in Blade 3.
Dude,
Is he would
Supposedly,
quips
there
are
was a
just
director
him-
that was told they have to address him as Blade when he talks to
Yes.
him.
Yeah.
The quips are not actually. Their quips were just some random shit he would say to his entourage, and then the people were like, "We need to put that in the movie." And then Wesley Snipes is like,
could've-
"Nobody's
that
gonna
could've-
say this shit," and
that-
they were like, "No, this is so cool. We need to put it in the movie."
That could have been. And so for me, absolutely cool.
So, moving on to Cyborg.
Cyborg up next from Teen Titans, the animated series. What do y'all think?
I'll go first. I have almost no context here outside of the Zack Snyder movies. I did not watch Teen Titans. I've not seen Titans. I've not played the video games that had him in it. However, the character, when I first saw it, they didn't really give him much to do. He was just very unhappy and very emo. Did not like him pretty much. He wasn't
Very opposite from the show.
wasn't a very likable character at all. However, they did have the Snyder cut for Justice League, and that restored a lot of footage, which showed a lot of what you were talking about with like what happened to him. And because he was an athlete, and he was like, very much like very promising guy, pretty much extremely intelligent, athletic, everything, and then all that taken away from him, and then his dad, without his permission, saves his life and essentially binds him to all this, like basically synthetic metal, like that's his life now. And so you kind of get the understanding that, oh yeah, he's really trying to figure out, am I still the person I am or I was? And who I was supposed to be? Am I something different? Am I even a person anymore? And so I think, despite my limited exposure, that he's pretty darn cool just because there's so much like going on there. Like he's not like a one-note character. This is obviously somebody put a lot of love into this character, and sometimes a lot of great stuff is born out of tragedy, and his story is definitely one of those. So I think he's pretty cool.
For me, it's the same. I saw Teen Titans a long time ago, but I think by the time it was rolling out, I had already moved past it. I was more into Batman the Animated Series. There's the Batman of the Future.
Batman Beyond?
Batman Beyond.
Yes, that needs a movie too.
Ooh.
Please, somebody
Batman
make
Beyond
Batman Beyond
is
a movie.
amazing, and it's like this old the Batman's this old guy then, and this kid breaks in, and then it's all training the new kid to become a Batman, and that was really good. So for me, it was in that era. I didn't watch too much of it because I had by then for this kind of funny, quirky, and then still with real stakes. That's why I was asking how high were the stakes in the show. I had already was watching anime for those kind of things for my fix of that. So my introduction is again from the new Zack Snyder movies. The first movie terrible. I was like, this guy's like whatever. Obviously with more backstory and everything I like the character. Based on what you said though, because I'm judging him in a point of time instead of just Cyborg as a character. Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's cool that that even then there was a nuance of him wondering, like, in the show did he wonder if I'm a man or a machine and all this?
Yeah, it came up a few times. Like it
So-
was in a
Obviously,
lot of
it's a kiddie
right.
version.
In a
like
lot of
baby
aspects, it
version.
was your typical cartoon, but then every once in a while, you'd have like a 2-episode arc or a 3-episode arc of like this actual story that played out, and you get those kind of themes and stuff from those.
Yeah, it's one episode. Oh no, our pool
Right.
inflatable is lost,
Right.
and then the
Our
next
pool
episode is
inflatable.
our aliens have entered the Earth through a portal, and they're going to destroy everything. And
Right.
then it's like high stakes all of a sudden, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I still think it's cool that they incorporated those things. He looks the oldest of them, is all I remember from that.
Yeah,
And he was the funny guy, right?
He looks like a typical Hollywood teen. You know, they cast
Yeah.
somebody that's
Yeah.
that's 29 to play a
Yeah.
17-year-old. That's Cyborg.
Cyborg seen some shit.
Well, the
Yeah.
thing is, it sucks that you haven't really seen much of this show, but like the voice actor did such an amazing job of portraying the character. I think he even came back for Teen Titans Go. They got him back for Teen Titans Go.
The voice actor
For Cyborg,
Oh, okay.
yeah, he did such an amazing job.
So I'm gonna ruin your night
Go ahead, I'm
course.
already
by
cool.
saying that
I'm already
all
cool.
three of us have never seen the show.
Ah!
No.
Yeah, no, same thing. I've not seen the show. I don't intend to go watch it. But I do have some knowledge of Cyborg from, those movies, and then like I said, from Smallville and everything. And then I remember like when I used to watch Smallville, I'm like, what's more about this character? So I'd like look up stuff online and everything like that. So I'd love to see the character done a little more justice in like a live action thing, because like even the Justice League movies, when they put out the Snyder cut, it's about 17 hours too long. But at the same time, it's just kind of like I didn't think it was too dark and broody there too.
You have to
But
watch
no,
it like a TV series. Like you just watch
yeah,
half an hour
yeah,
segments.
4
of-
hours of peak cinema. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, your peak is much lower than my peak. But no, I can't say much more than you guys already did. The fact that I didn't see it, but I'm intrigued by the character still, so I would still say it's cool, even though I've not seen the iteration you're wanting to talk about.
All right.
So
Nice.
There's enough crossover for me that like I'll take your word for it that he was cool, like he was like from what like the stuff that I've seen.
he looks better there than the images I've seen from Teen Titan Go as well. So
Yeah.
Oh, they
little
they
chibi characters.
they very simplified.
very
the
very
animation.
Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
So the last one we're going to talk about is Bishop. This one is a little along the lines of like with Spawn. It's a little more adult oriented with what his storyline is, not as much as Spawn was. I guess it kind of Blade too. I guess yours was because we were doing the cartoon, but just the fact that he's so integral, but he's not a main character. It's kind of like he's saving the world from the background kind of thing.
Which
like
is
you
honorable.
couldn't- Yeah, you couldn't get to where we were with saving the timeline without him. Yet he's not considered one of the main characters out there doing it. He's just getting his shit done and not getting any of the kudos. But I don't know. I still think he's pretty freaking awesome, and he needs to have his justice done in live action. But
All right, Andrew.
Okay. I have 2 words. If I judge him just by the mutant movies, I would say nostalgia, because he was kind of run of the mill.
and that's why we're not doing
Right.
the mutant movie.
I know. It was kind of run of the mill. Oh, he absorbs shoot back. It's not too much. Like
Yeah.
I didn't have any character depth of like Bishop being kind of like, I guess maybe why do they call him Bishop? Is it like because he's the
That's just his
coordinate
name. His name
for
is
something?
Lucas Bishop. That's his
Lucas
name.
Bishop. Okay, yeah. But he's like the coordinate, kind of keeping the track of timelines and all these things. Was that kind of his retconned kind, like retro, give him more powers when the multiverse explosion happened in comics?
You mean with like the power of the
Yeah, power of
absorption?
him.
That was
No. For him, like knowing timelines.
knowing the timeline. I don't know for
Yeah.
sure where that came in. I just when I was reading stuff on, I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I guess that. But I never knew him to like.
I'm
know
assuming
where he
it's
was in the
kind of
timeline.
like when they have multiverse happen, and then they were like, "Who?" And they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Bishop just has a sense."
I mean, it may
of
have
it, and,
something
like,
a bit to do with
add it,
Age of
yeah.
Apocalypse too, because like he was
Mhm.
like the linchpin that held that timeline together.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Which is
Yeah.
why he was, when they changed it, was able to remember this is what the timeline's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So maybe
And
that's where it came in.
So what I'm very disappointed then in that we have the time police and everything in Deadpool that was brought up in Loki, and then Bishop's like And they're still, instead of him pointing at like Wolverine is the anchor and the real anchor of the timeline, and Bishop's like not even mentioned.
Yeah, no.
But, so yeah, if I was just judging by the Marvel movies, I was just like, it's like any other, wasn't that memorable. I just remember
Yeah,
the
he's
guy
a
with the gun.
throwaway character in Days
Yeah.
of Future Past. the
But
Marvel movie.
based on your thing from the comic books, whatever he was, that I think that's pretty cool, and they should absolutely invest more into like. Is he in X-Men 97? Is he in
Yeah, he's
like
in X-Men
he's
97.
well done in the animated part?
Well, he's still kind of just there a couple times in X-Men
It's
97.
kind of just there.
Yeah, they still not like
It's just
the
cameo
bulk
stuff.
of his story,
Mhm.
like that's really great to follow is in the comics or the few story arcs that he's in the original X-Men animated series.
Animated series, okay.
So yeah, Marvel's done pretty much nothing with him cinematically, TV show, movie wise since the 90s.
Yeah.
So I would cool.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm sorry, but for me, it's nostalgia.
It's revenge time.
I think no. There's really good traits about him. He's got a good story, and I also think that he deserves his own time in the sun. I don't disagree with that. However, his power is absorbing energy, and that's all he's got. Like I can't.
Well, he shoots it back.
No,
too.
his power is way too late. I'm sorry.
He's got
You should pull up some footage of him actually doing it in the
he's-
animated series.
he's
It's
got-
not as lame as you think.
Yo, Cyclops, hit me! Time for an exorcism, punks! You're welcome.
It's not just like pew pew. It's like raining fiery laser
I don't
death.
care. It's just one thing that he could do, and not only is it not
Careful, audio
realistic,
sound.
it's also completely like one.
Wait a second. You're talking about it's not realistic. We talked about Spawn,
No,
and we talked about a
the
vampire.
Ten
but there were
Where did the
other.
realistic come up there?
There were other redeeming qualities that made
Oh
me
my
vote cool for
goodness.
this. But Bishop is
There's our
just
Bishop action scene was right
he
there.
can absorb stuff. Okay, look, if he had more time in the sun, I think maybe my opinion would be different. But from what I've heard and what I've seen, it just isn't enough for me.
I
It's
feel
nostalgia.
betrayed.
Sorry.
I
Well,
knew nothing of his Teen Titan stuff, and I still voted cool.
Prepare to feel even more betrayed.
Oh no!
Because I absolutely agree with him. They have done, unlike Cyborg, where even Zack Snyder, as much maligned as he is, Cyborg had an awesome character arc, an awesome story, and I have a connection there. Bishop, on the other hand, I got nothing. I couldn't tell
I
you.
literally just explained a
couldn't
big
tell-
story arc
Yeah,
for him.
but I've got no connection personally to it, and except for I've watched X-Men '97, but he was kind of throwaway there too. So they haven't really done much, and I've only ever heard of him in the Age of Apocalypse. I'm like, where else has he been? Like all these other characters have
He's in
tons
the
of other
Days of Future
stories.
Past. He's in Age of Apocalypse. He's in Extreme X-Men. He's in.
Well,
but I just brought up a
he's
big
in
thing that I
stuff.
knew.
He's in
But he's
there.
never
He's
been
just
cool.
there.
He's never been cool enough for Marvel to be like,
Look,
hey,
he's doing
let's.
combo attack with Cyclops
Yeah.
shooting him,
You
and
see
he's
that
getting
video?
powered
You
up.
see that video? It's 2 minutes long. That's the amount of screen time he gets.
That's
in the
pretty-
entire
I
series.
guess
pretty-
like that.
That's in X-Men 97 for one.
So cinematically,
But also-
they've done nothing.
Also,
They-
he doesn't even need powers to fight. You saw how often he was fighting and shooting his guns and getting stuff done.
Oh,
But, you know,
I can
whatever.
shoot guns.
Whatever. Oh my God! Like,
Sorry,
all right,
he
I'm
can
gonna go
shoot-
change my
He
freaking
can
answer.
shoot future guns. It comes from the future.
Go ahead, finish up, Monica.
So pretty much, yeah. I have I've never seen anything in like 25 years or whatever of them doing anything very much with him. And yeah, his powers are a little bit kind of like, well, I guess he could kind of do stuff with time, I guess. And then of course like the kinetic thing that he's got, which I don't really know about. So honestly, until now, this is where I'm with you a little bit. He has potential.
Yeah.
He has the potential to be cool. However, Marvel or whomever is just going to have to prove it to me. But for now,
So you're
this is
saying for
all-
you,
Mhm.
since you've not seen him live action and cartoon stuff used
anything,
much, that makes him
anything.
nostalgia.
I don't even know.
But he's fairly decent in the comics.
I got to take your word for it. I don't have any connection to that. For me, this is all nostalgia, man. I could go back and read those comics and be like, man, what are you thinking? This guy's still lame. So, but because all the evidence that I have personally witnessed, it's like he's not. I wouldn't call him lame. He's got potential, but he's definitely got to have something cool going on.
Look, what I will say is thank you for at least not giving us a softball. I think Blade and Spawn were definitely like slam dunks.
Dude, there are people who criticize the heck out of Blade. Okay,
Actually, I thought
I just did a good job, is what I did.
I actually thought all of you were going to say something about.
I just brought
Spawn.
a character that was extremely important to my childhood, and and everyone's like, "Fuck your childhood."
Hey, that was
Andy,
nice.
except
Not,
Andy.
I was
not
nice.
quite, not quite. Like I said, he's got potential. There's just somebody has to do something with. Even X-Men '97, they had chances, and he was just kind of a side
Well,
character.
I understand
in a
why
show
he
that was an
though, in this.
ensemble
It's just the
cast.
fact that he wasn't a huge character in the original animated series, so I get why they did it. I totally agree that
See,
they've been dropping the ball in the TV shows and the movies with not doing more with Bishop. They've just done everything in the comics. But yeah, no, I'll give you that they've not done well with him.
I mean, I know I said it's cool, but maybe if he cannot.
Do not
even-
revert your fucking vote right now.
We did it. We turned him. Yes.
If he cannot even make the animated series cut well enough, that he didn't even make the jump from comics to animated, like
Well, he did. He's there.
He's there. That's
That's
his tagline. Bishop, he's there.
he's there, here, he's there, he's everywhere.
X-Men, mutants, and Bishop's over here.
Oh my goodness! See, I should have pulled up more of the storylines he's in. I just brought up one of the ones that I really knew and liked, but there's a whole article with all kinds of storylines.
I just realized he's kind of Gambit, but way less cool. Because he's got kinetic powers. He takes energy and turns it on. Like, he can absorb power and then turn it back on. In fact, actually, they showed that in X-Men '97 in one of the coolest fucking scenes of all time. Why didn't they give that to Bishop?
When they did what?
If he can absorb power and turn it back on something. I'm saying it's like when they gave the cool character of Gambit that scene, but they didn't give it to Bishop.
Yeah.
We could probably keep going on and on, but let's just leave it
They
at
just
that.
continue stomping on my
I'm
childhood for the
not-
next 30
I'm not
minutes.
I'm saying they could have. Like, I hope they do and turn him into the cool
Doesn't
character.
the bad guy in the X-Men First Class also kind of in the movie also absorb the energy?
In First Class?
Yeah,
The Kevin Bacon guy?
Kevin Bacon guy.
I don't
I
I'm
think
trying to remember
they
who's his
changed what he did when they put him in that movie. I don't think that's what he actually, or maybe I don't remember.
I just
'Cause
remember
he
wearing
absorbs stuff in that movie too.
I just remember him wearing that goofy helmet. It was like, that's Kevin Bacon, a goofy helmet.
Hey, that's Magneto's helmet. What are you talking
It
about?
looks goofy on
Either
Kevin
way-
Well,
Bacon.
regardless of these idiots over here that don't know good characters, and especially when I thought we're like, wow, we're gonna have everyone agreeing on all cools for a first episode ever. Nope. So go ahead and in the comments let them know how much they're wrong,
Or right.
because Bishop's a great character,
No.
and come back in 2 weeks to go ahead and give a giant middle finger to Mike because he keeps saying wrong when I'm trying to say he's cool.
Both the mics.
But no, he's already given you a preview of what we're going to have in 2 weeks anyway. So, but thanks for stopping by. I'm Jeffrey.
I'm Andy.
Michael.
And I'm Mike the Deuce.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Later,
See ya.
everybody.